I'm Johnny Smith from the Late Break Show.
I'm Richard Porter from Sniff Petrol. Together we're Smith and Sniff, and we're here at the Bonhams Goodwood Festival of Speed auction. We've been allowed in a little bit early to have a look around some of the tasty treats that are on display and available to buy later this week. Now, if you think it's all glorious 60s GT cars and incredible sex wedge supercars, you are wrong. Look at this. This
is great.
I'm going to read the name because it's hard to remember. It's a Humber Pullman Mark III 4.1 litre Warwick shooting brake. You don't get car names like that anymore. You do not get cars like this anymore. Cars with real wood doors.
I think the thing I love about this sort of era of British car is they were made brilliantly. They're still really undervalued and underappreciated, but there's something special about a real woody. Apparently there was only 4 of these ever made. This is the only survivor. It got restored, then it instantly got damaged in a fire and then had to be restored again.
Fire, no friend of the
wood car. Woody. But this actual car was used in the auto car test when it was new.
Was it?
Yeah, and it's been up to Scotland, working at a distillery, down in London as a pub landlord's car. It's been all over the place. But it's a car, I think it's a classic you can really use.
For what? I don't know, but I'd love to try. I mean, it's magnificent, big as well.
Touring.
Something else that gave me a real woody when I walked in was this Land Rover Defender here, which
sweet car
looks like a Defender. I have a little weakness for Defenders. I have one of my own, but this has only 20 miles on the clock. Not only that, the person who bought it and who has owned it from new was allowed to go to the Solihull production line, take photographs of this very car being made, and ask members of the production line staff to sign parts of it as they tried to get them to fit, without success probably. It's now available for sale. Now the problem is, what do you do with it?
I love it, but it's a sort of ornament really, because as soon as you drive it, you devalue it. So it's really it's going to be owned by someone that's already got many of other special things. It's a trinket car, isn't it?
It's sort of like a panda born in captivity. It can never now be released into the wild. It simply won't survive. This car, and the whole point of it, is it's a Defender with 20 miles on it, and it sort of has to remain like that. But anyway, an interesting thing, not many cars made in the last week or 2 weeks, I think, of Defender production that have photographs of them on the line signed by the people who made it. So that's a nice thing.
We'll come on to another Defender up there which has definitely been used.
Yes.
Most definitely.
Aston DB6, well, I mean, they're just nice, aren't they? But this, I think, is sort of more interesting.
But I want, can one of the camera operators, can you come dead head on? Because that, to me, is the most attractive shot. What a beautiful front end. Look at the shapes of these grills here. It's just a really dainty, gorgeous thing. So Lagonda, a name you don't hear much of.
No. And this is, I believe they only made 55 of them. And this, even more rare, it has a manual transmission. Most of them were 3-speed automatics. It's an elegant thing.
It's just
nice.
It's just so seldom seen, isn't it?
You won't see one coming the other way, put it that way.
No. You might get this for 70 grand. Between 70 and 100.
Now, since we're on an Aston sort of theme, an Aston V8, they used to call these the V8 Saloon. It's not a saloon, it's a coupe. But people are very interested in the Vantage ones, Prince of Wales spec, all of that stuff. But this is none of those things because it's just very simple, very, very clean. It's an 88 car, I think. And
310.
It's just very nice. It's got the proper Avon Turbo Speed tyres on it that it should have. I only mention this because look at the profile on them. They're 70 profile tyres. I'm going to take a punt. I've never driven one of these, but I'm going to take a punt and say I bet it rides beautifully.
235 70 15s. That is a sexy balloon of a tyre.
It is, isn't it?
It's all tyre.
Now I'm also going to say I bet those cross-spoke wheels, very of their time. I love them as a child of the 80s.
Yeah.
A pig to clean.
Yep.
But I imagine you have a man who does that for you, so it's not an issue.
You said it before, I actually prefer these when they're not body kitted at all.
Yeah.
They just look a little bit more honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Sweet car.
That outlet, that heat outlet, lovely little detail.
Yeah.
But let's move on. Let's move on. Oh, well, I know what we're going to do. We've almost walked past the bloody things. These two cars interest us. And the reason why they interest us, they just happen to be parked next to one another. But from what we can tell,
This is a Sophie's choice for you, basically.
They're of similar worth.
356B,
Yep.
Porsche,
One of my favourite cars of all time.
Lancia Delta Integrale
Integrale.
Evo 2.
Yeah.
Giallo, a good colour for this car.
It is a really good colour for this car,
But
yeah.
the auction estimates on these broadly similar, 55 to 70, 75,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So the question is which?
Which one?
They are very different cars,
They're
but
completely different genres, completely different feels, and performance. I mean, I've always liked these because I remember the Ewa Kanken rally
yeah,
days. But if it was my money, I would have to buy a 356 because it's one of my favourite cars. It's one of my bucket list cars. They're just effortlessly beautiful, and I think they're fun to drive. I'm not saying that's not fun to drive because
No.
that'd be Larry AF.
do you know what I like about these?
What?
Incredibly substantial wiper arms with a sort of aero sculpting
That
on
is-
them
that is-
on these
that-
later Integrales. I presume there was a solid reason for that. This is pushing
Yeah.
the wiper onto the. If you are Juha Kanken and you're going
is-
for it on a
this one's
special
extra-
stage,
This one is ex-Japanese market.
a lot of them are, aren't they? See,
Yeah.
I would have said, without question, if you'd asked me which one, I would have always said this
Yeah,
until I drove one of those.
yeah,
And it was delightful.
yeah,
It was such a nice little car, and they feel really nicely engineered.
yeah.
And I guess this does in its own way, but there's something actually quite magical about those, and I would sort of err towards that.
But what you really need to do is buy both of them. Because
Yes.
then you get both of the vibes, both of the genres. That's an Aston, surely, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
DB9.
In fact, we'll move up that way, not because we want to listen to it or be gassed out, but because we actually just want to have a look at that car there and that car there.
Honourable mention, by the way, this car here, because again, you won't see one coming the other way.
No.
ISO Revolta.
Yeah.
ISO made bubble cars and various other things.
They did. That's right. Well,
And
that's,
then they decided, let's make something that has performance like a Ferrari, but comfort like a Jaguar. And this is what they came up with. And you can also see
this particular version is a race
kind
car.
of a BMW window line there. Coincidence, I'm sure. Sort of American and Italian parts melded together into one glorious whole.
So
but
this
if you
one's-
prefer pure
this-
Americana, oh sorry, were you going to say something about
I was
this?
just going to say this one's been prepped to FIA standards.
It's got a ship's wheel for
Yeah,
some
it's
reason.
got a four-spoke. It's got a four-spoke steering wheel, which is
really
you don't
sort
see
of-
four spokes very often. Not this
but
type.
for equally,
Yeah, like a propeller wheel.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
But again, look, value 50 to 60,000 pounds. One of 797.
And this
cars
is ready
made.
to go racing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I bet
So-
it'd be fun. Wouldn't want to buy any body panels for the damn thing though.
Excuse me, is that Halfords? Do you have a front wing for an ISO Revolta? Anyway, if you like pure Americana rather than Italian cars with American bits, there's a Ford Mustang here.
Yeah, I mean, what do I need to tell you about the Mustang? It's still one of the most desirable cars. It's the CK1 of the muscle car world. Everyone likes it. It smells pretty good.
Smells like glue.
No. CK1's still classy, right? Right. Anyway, the thing about this particular version is that it's a 4 on the floor.
Oh,
So
rare.
it's a 289 engine, K code engine, so slightly higher
What does K code mean? Sorry.
higher performance.
Ah, okay.
So K code 4.7 engine, but higher output. No, I think no air conditioning. I think no power steering, but uprated clutch, diff, suspension. So K code cars are more desirable.
I notice it has
The ponies, the embossed ponies on
ponies
the vinyl.
on the seat.
Ponies on the vinyl.
Ponies on the vinyl.
Look at it. You got to look at it. And I really like those pods on the steering column. I think they were always a good touch. Ford did excellent dashboards in this era.
What did you
The
say to me
Thunderbirds
earlier
and
on?
stuff.
Everybody likes a Mustang.
Like nobody dislikes a Mustang.
I don't
I just
dislike a Mustang.
happen to
I mean-
like Dodge Chargers more. It's not that I don't dislike.
Just in passing, Aston DBS V8, personally, one of my favourite Astons. I just like the look of this front.
It's a very
Very modern in its day, but I think it really stands up. Pretend to be in the Persuaders. Although, fun fact, the car in that show, badged as a V8, was in fact the earlier straight six version.
Look,
this.
Yeah, right. Now I want to talk about this car
interesting.
because One small fact I can tell you about this is when I did a little bit of work at another classic car show with Quentin Wilson a few years back.
I know.
He said this is one of his favourite cars of all time.
Really?
Yes. And at first I said to him, I said, you've stumped me, Quentin. I don't know what it is. Obviously I know it's an AC, and this is such a unicorn of a car. So this is the AC 428 Fastback Coupe.
Bodywork by Frue of Italy. Frua.
Yeah.
Pretty car.
One of
Pretty
51.
car. Came out in the 60s. This one is a later one, 72?
73.
73, beg your pardon.
And called a 428 cause it's got a big heart from a Folds. It's got a Ford Big Block V8.
Is essentially a longer wheelbase AC Cobra underneath, but with, for my money, a prettier and less cliched body over the top. And it's all the provenance, and it has got a whacking great Folds V8 under the bonnet, so
7 litre.
It'll make a mighty sound and go like stink. However, there are two things that make this car particularly appealing beyond the massive engine and the AC Cobra chassis and all the rest of it.
There is two things, yeah.
The gear selector for the automatic gearbox is the first one. It is space age.
It's a thrust arm, isn't it?
It's magnificent.
Yeah. And
the second thing I like about this is it's the quarter light arrangement.
Look, right, picture this. It's 1973, you've just picked up your AC 428, okay? The car stinks, heavy breathing, performance vehicle. You're a habitual smoker because it's the early 70s. You have a quarter light here. You have a quarter light here, so air can come in, gather the smoke, take it away out here, but you also then have pop-outs at the back here for rear passengers. What an amazing setup.
Have you got a fuel filler on your side?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one over here as well.
And that beautiful AC vent.
Yeah, thirsty car, thirsty car.
You could look at this car and think, what a quirky left field oddball thing. This is the thinking man's choice compared to the more cliche Astons. And look, 60 to 90,000 pounds. You could imagine if this went for the lower end of that, 60 grand. I know 60 grand's a lot of money, but what an interesting beast.
Now,
why I'm doing this,
not the gentleman here. This is a Porsche. You knew that, but not just any Porsche. This is a roof Porsche. Now you probably know roof, Yellowbird, Nürburgring, Defascination. But this, you'll notice, is a cabriolet, roof converted cabriolets as well. It's a 993 shape, 911, but it's been turbocharged, 414 horsepower. It's one of those cars you get in this auction where you just go, don't see those every day.
So
don't
just
see this every
relaxing
day
by the
either.
DeLorean.
A man
Thought I'd just relax.
Casually on a DeLorean.
I wanted to talk to you about the Spectre Land Rover.
Oh, okay.
Because that's one of the ones from the film, the 2014 film.
Should we go and
It's only
look at
done 470 kilometres.
bargain? On the way there, let's mention this BMW Z1, because Z1's not a commonplace car. I would say this even more rare for one reason. Alpina badge there. This is one of the ones that was converted
You can
by
tell
Alpina.
the doors have just opened.
Yes,
Because
people are
everyone's
coming
pouring
in.
in.
Now. People are looking at stuff, and rightly so, because there's good things here. This is one of them, I think. So Alpina increased the engine capacity 2.7 from the 2.5. In normal Z1s, they were criticised at the time for being not the fastest car in the world.
No.
So this clearly helps. Still has a lovely manual gearbox. I don't even need to touch the gear lever in this car to know how the gear change feels.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Classic BMW gear change.
Yeah.
It just feels
The
like
weight.
There's a weight. The other thing about these cars, and these ones are in very good nick, the seats, they have camo effect leather seats. Sounds vile, actually I think quite nice.
It's a
little
weird
bit of Alcantara there.
Did they
as
all
well.
have the colour-coded
I think they
kind of
did,
shell on the
yes.
back of the seat?
Yeah.
I've only ever seen one of these on the road. It was
Really?
When I was at university and a guy pulled up outside a nightclub in one and the door went.
Ooh. So if you don't know, the doors slide up out of the sills and then the window continues up to form a normal looking door. Brilliant cars. If you're a fan of synthesizer pop music, you should know that this car, not this particular one, but this model of car has great provenance. Examples have been owned by Bernard Sumner from New Order and Chris Lowe from Pet Shop Boys. So
Oh my gosh.
what more could you want?
Well, I tell you what more I'd want. I would not buy this because I would buy that instead, genuinely. I can't
Alfa
walk
Montreal.
past an Alfa Romeo Montreal without saying, look, it's an Alfa Romeo Montreal. because it's brilliant. Look at it. Still one of the coolest looking cars ever made. This is 1973, I think.
Talking, as I briefly was, about celebrity owners, there's a good one for the Alfa Montreal, Yasmin Le Bon.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, what gets cooler than that? Yasmin Le Bon in an Alfa
cool.
Montreal.
Can't think of anything.
You know, the
cooler.
reality is, I believe they don't drive amazingly compared to a lot of other cars of that time. I don't care. Look at it. It's so good. That guy's taking a picture of another car. That's how good that is.
What would you call that colour?
Oh, I don't. Is it
I
some
don't know.
sort of flower?
Misty Dawn.
Misty Dawn.
Yeah.
I'll take
She had
that.
a couple of hits in the late early 90s.
Yeah,
didn't
she did. Yeah, synth success.
Yes. So, the Spectre Defender.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is an incredible thing.
We know a guy who owned one.
Yes.
He said it was exceptional to look at. But I think
It's a polite way of
it's
saying
a proper
it was
Bond. It's a
horrible to drive.
well, it's a special Bond stunt car, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
you know, it's built for a purpose, and it had to look the part for the film.
Interesting detail here that you'll see they've run washer fluid cables along the wipers. They don't have those on normal Defenders. That's there, I think, and I'm guessing, because they needed extra help keeping the screen
much
clear,
mud.
doing the stunt work through slush and mud and everything. But yeah, it's quite a thing, and incredibly valuable.
I was going to say, this one's pretty much
Even
delivery
by-
mileage.
Yeah, I mean Defenders generally can be idiotically pricey, but this.
But, wow, 150 to 200
As I
expected
said.
value.
Yeah.
Goodness. Okay. Big
Right.
gulp. Let's move that way.
Let's move that way.
200,000 sheets. Gosh.
Unit base, field opposite Renault garage.
Here, because again, this particular Bonhams auction has got some real kind of lesser spotted GT cars and
Yes.
interesting names.
Yes.
And this is at the top of my list of those. The Facel Vega. What a beautiful car. And this particular version has got some lovely weathering on it, some patination. And I'm looking at the price, you know. The estimate for this is the same as that BMW.
Is it?
It's the same. Again, completely different style, different era.
Yeah.
But I have a real thing for this. French car, not so well known. American underpinnings from a Chrysler, I think it's
Yep.
a Dodge
It's a
engine.
V8 there, yeah.
Probably the same engine as my Charger, actually. And look at the styling. Every angle you look at it, from the shape of the windows, the panelling, I just think,
It's a
what?
pretty car. It's a pretty car. And
It's so stylish.
two things for me that make it extra appealing.
Yeah.
One, Ringo Starr had one.
Yes.
And two, French car. This was originally delivered in France, this particular version. So you get yellow headlights. Lovely yellow headlights.
I'm down with it. And you know what? You know that Lagonda we looked at right at the beginning?
Yeah.
There's a similar era for
Yeah.
these kind of little grills on grills with grill. I just think it's a really dainty,
Yeah.
exciting time for design. I would own that over most of the Aston Martins we've walked past, personally.
But I also feel like a car like this and that Lagonda, actually, they wouldn't sell one to you unless your name started with Count.
Oh no,
They're
I mean,
that kind of
I'm
car.
Johnny Smith. I'm never going to be able to buy a car like
but
that.
Count Johnny Smith.
Viscount. Can I be
Johann,
Viscount?
Count Johann Smith,
I'll be a Viscount.
driving to his Schloss in a Facel Vega or a Lagonda,
Somerset Schloss.
something like that. There was something over there that caught your eye, also on the Trans-Europe Express
Oh yeah,
theme.
yeah. It's another kind of a bit of a rare groover.
There's also, I mean, I don't know what to say really about these. There's a couple of Force India F1 cars here, a 2009 and a more recent 2017 car driven by Esteban Ocon. They're being sold directly by what's now the Aston Martin Formula One team.
Are they?
Yeah.
Would you buy
Guess
one?
they need the money. I don't know why, but I do know why
Well,
they need
sir,
the money. It's
sir-
expensive being a Formula One team. So yeah, they don't have engines in them though, so you can't just go out and pretend to be Esteban Ocon even if you wanted to. But
3 words, or maybe 2, depending on how you hyphenate.
Mm-hmm.
Lamborghini Swan Neck.
Oh, yes.
Has anyone ever seen a better swan neck mirror?
But also one of the most interesting A-pillars in history.
Yeah.
Bit of curvature there, and
Yeah.
these are sort of forgotten a bit, aren't they?
I think these live in the shadows of all the other Lamborghinis. people just don't seem to ever really talk about. This is the 400. I think it's early 67. Okay, so it's the 400 GT 2+2. Look at the shapes going on in this thing. So this was on sale at the same time as the Miura. Right?
Yes. I guess the Miura joined it as more sort of outright supercar.
Yeah.
This, as the name suggests, a GT car.
Yeah, and a bit like that Facel Vega, and a little bit like that AC 428. Unusual choices for cars, and they're all showing a little bit of kind of honest wear. I've noticed there's a few little dinks and scratches on this one, but I love it. I mean, the back, this angle here, this is probably my favourite angle, and there's a little bit of an echo of the that Volvo P1800.
Oh,
There's
yes.
a little bit of P1800 going on here with the quarter bumpers.
Yeah, you're right.
And the 4 shotgun tailpipes.
Well, there you go. If you've ever wanted a Volvo P1800 but you wished it had a V12, get this. It's great.
Honestly, what's 180, 230? Okay, so more money than a Volvo P1800.
Oh, that's a nuisance, but it's a lovely thing.
It's a very cool thing.
I was going to mention the SLS here, but I don't really know what to say about them. They're sort of amusing, aren't they? But
I've done a lot of miles, and I probably said this on one of our podcasts. My wife went into labour with our second child, and I was at a wedding in one of those, and I got home quickly. Officer.
Batmobile.
It does. What if I told you it's electric?
What?
It's electric. So,
okay.
This has been restored and converted by electric classic cars in Wales, who seem to be the sort of leaders of converting classics to EVs. And this has actually got a Tesla drivetrain and an 85 kilowatt hour battery pack. So it's 450 horsepower, almost totally silent, but
450 horsepower.
Yeah.
Gosh. Where do you stand on this then, as a thing, as the philosophical side of taking a car like this and converting it to EV?
I take them on a case-by-case basis. I think if it allows the owner to drive them in places where they wouldn't, or it allows them to use a car more than they would have used that car, then that's okay. I get a bit funny about certain engines if the engine was particularly amazing.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, because the engine in these,
it's quite
BMW straight six,
it's quite charismatic.
Lovely engine.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I feel about that. I think you're robbing the car of something because they sound so nice.
Yeah.
Something like a Citroen DS.
Yeah.
The engine was always
or a DeLorean.
Rubbish. Yes, exactly.
An EV DeLorean's just
brilliant
EV,
idea. Yeah.
This, but yeah,
I don't know.
So this bad boy here,
and it looks fab in every other respect. Fun fact about these extra bits of aerodynamic add-on stuff. In some countries, they had to be supplied in the boot, and you fitted them yourself because pedestrians.
Right.
Ouchie. So many sharp edges.
Yeah.
So all the extra aero stuff was actually just came in the boot loose. There's always an XT220 here.
And that's
do you want to know
angle.
an incredibly boring fact about this car?
Furnish me with information, Richard.
The back lights.
Oh yeah.
Do you know where they're from?
Yeah, I did know.
Gonna have to hurry you.
It's not a Rover, is it a Rover?
Yes.
Rover
200.
200.
The R8 shape. But here's the really boring bit.
Yeah.
Jaguar wanted to use the updated rear lights from the contemporary Rover 200, smoked upper portion.
Yes.
Rover said no.
Rover said no.
They said no. You can have the old style ones with the orange indicators. So that's why it has these.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Could they
that's
not
the great
just
thing
go and buy them?
from a motor factors.
Yeah.
I know. Anyway,
I love them.
of course we know the XT220 has a turbulent history. It's also a wonderful Bitzer look, Ford door lock, Citroen CX door mirror, plonked on here for some reason. Ford side repeater as well.
Yeah. Was it the fastest car in the world for about 12 minutes?
For about 12 minutes it was, and then something else came along. But they've suddenly become, I think, more appreciated. This one is right-hand drive. That makes it slightly more rare than the left-hand drive ones. And
these were 100 grand cars for years.
Yeah.
They just sort of sat.
And then suddenly people have gone, oh, actually, we do quite like them.
Yeah.
So they're now more sought after, I guess. And, well, for drama.
I didn't know only 69 were right-hand drive.
Yeah.
That's that little.
Unusual in itself. Most of these limited run supercars then, in the 90s, now, just made in left-hand drive. Jaguar themselves did it with their Project 8 because it's more expensive to have to do both. But XT220, Jaguar, being a British company, they went, no, we'll do right-hand drive ones. And then, yes, they made a handful of right-hand drive ones.
The man, the brainchild behind the Gumball 3000 Maximilian Cooper, massive fan of these. He's got at least one.
Has he?
If not two, and has had them for a long time, since before they were cool.
So, yes.
1993.
Benetton B193. An interesting car in itself.
Yeah.
Great history. Ross Brawn connection.
Yeah.
But what makes this particularly interesting is that this car was driven by Michael Schumacher. Bit weird because it was actually raced by his teammate Riccardo Patrese.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Schumacher used this car to qualify for the British Grand Prix.
Yeah.
So it has been driven by Schumacher. It says in the auction notes, it even comes still with a set of seatbelts marked with Schumacher's initials and Patrase's initials. It doesn't have its original engine.
Yeah.
It has an engine which allows it to run in a sort of show tune, so it's not going to suddenly explode.
So you can exhibition race it, as it were, kind of thing. Yeah. I know the owner of this. He's called Steve from Somerset. He's a lovely guy. And he owns the brother or sister car to this, which was Schumacher's main car.
Yeah.
And he's had that one for a number of years. And he found this car in a very strange circumstance, which you probably haven't got time for. But I'm going to be filming in his garage soon for the Late Break show. But needless to say, this car was found in the middle of London, I believe, hanging from the ceiling of a huge dining room of a millionaire's house.
Wow.
And Steve had the interesting job of getting it out of his living room using an elaborate winch system and a Mercedes Sprinter. But this is